Inquisitorial Log, Entry 742-1, M42. As I archive these accounts of the Great Crusade, I am awestruck by the sheer scale of the Emperor's ambition. It was an era of unparalleled conquest, a vision realized on an interstellar scale. With Terra unified and the Emperor's forces assembled, humanity stood poised to reclaim the galaxy. Through the might of the Space Marine legions, led by the Emperor's Primarchs, world after world would either join the Imperium or be brought to heel under its banner. This log recounts the foundation of the Crusade, the pivotal Treaty of Mars, and the unity forged between Terra and the Mechanicum. It was a time of relentless expansion and unshakable belief in the Imperial truth. Yet beneath the surface, the seeds of discord had begun to take root. As we chronicle this age of conquest, we trace the path that would lead not only to the Imperium's greatest triumphs, but tragically, to its deepest betrayals. The Great Crusade was the culmination of the Emperor's vision for humanity. A vision forged in the fires of Terra's unification. After millennia of conflict, Terra was finally brought to heel, and the Emperor turned his gaze outwards to the stars, envisioning an Imperium that would reunite all of mankind. With the discovery of standard template constructs, or STCs, ancient technologies once thought lost were available once more, providing the means to reclaim and reforge lost worlds of humanity. To realize this vision, the Emperor established a vital alliance with the forged world of Mars. Known as the Treaty of Mars, this pact joined the Mechanicum with the Emperor's burgeoning Imperium, creating a symbiotic union between Terra and Mars itself. The Mechanicum forges provided the Imperium with technological and military resources, from war machines to titans, in exchange for religious freedom and recognition of the machine god. This treaty was a masterstroke, ensuring that the Imperium would have the manufacturing power it needed to fuel its conquests, and marking the Mechanicum as one of the Imperium's most essential allies. With the Mechanicum's resources and the newly formed legions of Space Marines, the Emperor sought to replace the fragmented beliefs and superstition that had once divided humanity with the Imperial truth, a doctrine rooted in science, unity, and progress. To this end, he raised the Primarchs, his sons and generals, to lead the legions across the stars. Each world brought into the Imperium would be offered a place in this new order, but those who resisted would face the unyielding might of the Imperium's war machine. The Primarchs were far more than warriors. Each one embodied a specific facet of the Emperor's vision, making them the perfect instruments for his crusade. They were symbols of humanity's potential, beings of immense power and intellect, designed to inspire both their legions and the worlds they conquered. Horus, the Emperor's favored son and chosen war master, led the Luna Wolves with unmatched charisma and strategic brilliance. Rabute Gilliman forged Ultramar into a model of efficient Imperial governance, while Ferrus Manus and the Iron Hands pushed technological prowess to its limits, ensuring the Crusade was equipped with formidable weaponry and machinery. Each Primarch brought a unique perspective and methodology to the Crusade, shaping the character of the legions they led. Leman Russ and his space wolves fought with an animalistic ferocity that struck fear into the hearts of foes, while Fulgrim and the Emperor's children pursued an almost artistic perfection in warfare. Rogaldorn's imperial fists fortified the Imperium's holding, while Jagatai Khan's White Scars excelled in swift, decisive strikes. Despite their unity in purpose, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Differences in philosophy and approach hinted at the fragile unity beneath the Imperium's triumphant expansion. Yet in these early days, the Primarchs and their legions remained focused on the Crusade's mission, united by a shared purpose. Each world encountered during the Great Crusade represented a unique challenge, from isolated human enclaves to vast, self-sufficient civilizations. The Imperium's approach to those worlds varied, with the ultimate goal always being compliance, unification under the banner of the Emperor. For many, compliance was achieved through diplomacy and negotiation, with the Emperor's promises of protection and technological advancement persuading planetary leaders to join willingly. However, for those who resisted, compliance became a brutal affair. When a world defied the Emperor's call, the legions would descend upon it with overwhelming force. Resistance was swiftly crushed, and cultures that clung to their independence were dismantled. The harsh reality was, the Imperium has no tolerance for deviation or dissent. One particular notable example of compliance was Monarchia. Known as the Perfect City, it was established by the Word-Bearers as a center of worship for the Emperor. However, the Emperor had decreed that worship had no place in his Imperium. To reprimand Lorgar for his transgressions, the Emperor ordered Rebute Gilliman and the Ultramarines to destroy Monarchia. This act of humiliation deeply scarred Lorgar and sowed seeds of resentment within him that would grow over time. Each conquest added to the Imperium's might, but also planted seeds of discontent, creating fractures that would eventually undermine the unity the Emperor sought to build. As the Great Crusade's reach extended beyond human worlds, the Imperium encountered numerous Xenos species, each presenting unique challenges to the Emperor's vision of a unified galaxy. These alien civilizations ranged from brutal aggressors to ancient and enigmatic powers, each forcing the Imperium to adapt its strategies. The Orcs, primitive yet devastatingly effective, were among the most frequently encountered foes. Their raw strength, combined with overwhelming numbers, created a persistent and chaotic threat. The Eldari, by contrast, were an ancient and technologically superior race that often evaded direct conflict. Their hit-and-run tactics, guided by their far-seeing farseers, tested the Imperium's ability to respond to a more subtle and elusive enemy. Not all encounters were defined by immediate hostility. Some Xenospecies, such as the Interex, demonstrated the ability for coexistence, offering advanced knowledge and cultural exchange. Yet these opportunities were often overshadowed by the Imperium's rigid doctrine, which viewed all Xenos as threats to humanity's rightful dominion. This unwavering stance against alien life created conflict not only with the Xenos themselves, but also among the Primarchs, some of whom began to question the Emperor's uncompromising vision. These encounters underscored the galaxy's diversity and the challenges inherent in the Crusade. While the Imperium's might was often enough to overwhelm alien civilizations, these conflicts planted the seeds of doubt and dissent, hinting at fractures within the Imperium's ranks. Even as the Imperium expanded, tensions within its ranks began to rise. The Primarchs, though united in their loyalty to the Emperor, were not immune to their own ambitions and conflicts. Each carried a fragment of the Emperor's vision, but these fragments were incomplete, leading to differing interpretations of the Imperium's ultimate goal. Lorgar, deeply spiritual and devoted, struggled with the Emperor's rejection of faith. He viewed worship as the foundation of unity, yet the Emperor condemned such practices, insisting on a secular empire bound by the imperial truth. This conflict came to a head with the destruction of Monarchia, which left Lorgar humiliated and embittered. The seeds of rebellion were sown in his heart, even as he outwardly reaffirmed his loyalty. Horus, the Emperor's chosen war master, bore the immense responsibility of leadership. His bond with his brothers and his charisma made him a natural leader. Yet the pressure of his position and his growing awareness of the Emperor's secrets began to weigh heavily on him. These cracks, subtle at first, would grow as the crusade progressed, leaving Horus vulnerable to manipulation. Other Primarchs, such as Perturabo and Angron, harbored their own grievances. Perturabo felt perpetually overlooked and underappreciated despite his legion's vital role in siegecraft, while Angron's bitterness towards the Emperor for forcibly removing him from Luceria remained a festering wound. These tensions were not immediately visible, but they were felt, creating an undercurrent of discontent within the Crusade. As the Great Crusade reached its zenith, these fractured remains, largely unseen, but they would soon widen, threatening the unity that had propelled humanity to the stars. Beneath the surface of triumph, discontent brewed, laying the groundwork for a tragedy that would change the galaxy forever. The encounter with the Interex marked a critical turning point in the Great Crusade. Unlike many of the worlds encountered by the Imperium, the Interex were a human civilization that had not only survived, but thrived during the Age of Strife. Their society was advanced, blending human ingenuity with Xenos knowledge. The Interex had achieved a rare harmony with certain alien species, incorporating their technologies and philosophies into a culture that valued wisdom and cooperation over conquest. Horus, ever the diplomat, initially saw great potential in the Interex. Their mastery of technology and cultural sophistication fascinated him, and for a time it seemed that an alliance might be forged. The Interex, however, viewed the Imperium with a cautious skepticism. They regarded the imperial truth as narrow and inflexible, unable to accommodate the complexities of the galaxy's many civilizations. Despite these philosophical differences, the early discussions between the Interex and Horus's delegation were cordial, raising hopes for a peaceful integration. Yet, as with so many moments in the Great Crusade, mistrust proved fatal. A misunderstanding, or perhaps deliberate sabotage, sparked violence. The Interex accused the Imperium of attempting to steal an ancient artifact, the Anathame blade, a weapon of Xenos origin. Horus vehemently denied the accusation, but the fragile negotiations collapsed into bloodshed. The resulting conflict obliterated the possibility of alliance, and the Interex were annihilated, by the forces of the Imperium. The Anathame blade, its theft orchestrated by Erebus, would play a pivotal role in the events to come. It was not merely a weapon, but an artifact steeped in warp-tainted energy capable of influencing fate itself. Its dark purpose would entwine with the destiny of Horus and the future of the Imperium in ways even the most prescient could not foresee. For Horus, the encounter with the Interex was a moment of profound disillusionment. Here was a society that represented an alternative path for humanity, a vision of cooperation and enlightenment. But it had been obliterated by mistrust and manipulation. This tragedy deepened the cracks in Horus's faith in the Emperor's vision and fueled his growing doubts about the righteousness of the Great Crusade. As the embers of the Interex smoldered, the seeds of the Horus Heresy were quietly sown. The Anathame blade, now in the possession of Erebus, would soon cast a shadow over the galaxy, its influence rippling through events that would forever alter the course of the Imperium. The tragedy of the Interex was not merely a failure of diplomacy, it was a first step down a dark and treacherous path. The Great Crusade was a monumental achievement, a testament to the Emperor's vision and humanity's potential for unity. World after world was brought into compliance, ancient technologies rediscovered, and humanity's empire expanded to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. It was an era of triumph, yet beneath the surface of this golden age, shadows gathered. The cracks in the Emperor's dream began to widen as ambition, resentment, and manipulation sowed discord among the Primarchs and their legions. The tragedy of the Interex marked the point where these shadows began to coalesce. The theft of the Anathame by Erebus, the destruction of a civilization that might have offered an alternative path, and the seeds of doubt planted in Horus's heart all pointed to a future darker than anyone could have foreseen. The Imperium, at the height of all of its power, was also unknowingly poised for a cataclysm that would rend it apart. In our next log, we will confront the event that shattered the Emperor's dream and reshaped the galaxy forever: the Horus Heresy. It was a conflict born of betrayal, ambition, and the temptations of the warp. A civil war that would set brother against brother and turn the Emperor's own creations into his greatest adversaries. As we trace the path to this dark chapter in humanity's history, we begin to understand how the brightest light of the Great Crusade gave way to the darkest shadows of treachery.